I always say, who do we have?
We're excited to have Cristy Lee, a powerhouse in the automotive and motorsports world, a TV personality known for hosting All Girls Garage and Garage Squad. From turning wrenches in her father's shop to inspiring millions on screen, Cristy has done it all.
And we're going to talk a little bit about all that and then some more. So welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I always love the intro where you just reel on about all my accomplishments. It's a little ego booster for me.
Now, when you were younger, did you ever imagine being where you are today?
I mean, it's kind of hard to like picture the future like that, right? I've always been a big dreamer, big thinker, but I've never been like a, in the future forward thinker. So I guess I've always kind of lived in the moment. So no, I never really thought, flashback like 20, 30 years ago. I mean, only like barely 20 years ago because I'm so young. Flashing back years and years ago, obviously I'd never could have kind of pictured where I'm at now, but I couldn't be happier because I've kind of just built my career to be what it is.
Yeah. Now, when you do look back, was there a moment for you where you realized that your love for this industry could actually become a career?
I mean, I basically just kind of built my entire career professionally on television around being who I am and what I like doing. So, I've worked a lot of jobs over the years. I've had a lot of different career paths, I guess you could say. And the wind has kind of just taken me where it's taken me. So I definitely attribute my hard work and perseverance in any capacity, whatever the field might be, whatever the medium might be, as a huge part of my success. But I do feel like I've kind of, found a place that I love and just happened to build this career on doing it. I'm like a old school TV person. I've not really been like a reality TV person. I just so happen to be like really good on camera. So I kind of envisioned my career and based it off of that. Well, it's like, okay, well, I like cars. I like working on cars. I like DIY. I like homes. I like renovating homes. So it's just like, let's turn that into television somehow. Obviously in the, 15 years I've been in the television and broadcast industry, it's changed quite a bit. It's morphed from more of the, formatted hosting style to like, obviously everything's reality TV based. And now with digital media, it's even more different. So just adapting to that. But I guess my craft is talking on camera.
Yeah. Cause 15 years ago, we couldn't do this with you. If I wasn't a big media company, I couldn't do this, but because of technology, because of things coming to where your average person can get out there and actually form a brand, it made the ground floor kind of at everybody's level. But that's kind of a double-edged sword too, ain't it?
It definitely is. I mean, the landscape is like ever changing, and it's rapidly ever changing now with digital media, especially with social media. So that's kind of an interesting crossroads and obviously a really in-depth topic, I think, for not only myself, but others in the industry, because it really has been such a progression, but in an interesting way. So I mean, I don't necessarily love it, but it's kind of the way of the world now. So, here we are with this saturation of digital media. And again, the awesomeness of the accessibility that anybody can start a podcast, anybody can start a YouTube, anybody can start as a content creator, but also the flooding of that within the industry. It makes it different for people like myself who've been in this for a while.
Yeah, because I think that, I also see this on all industries where it's really tough for, you always had a middle class of every industry, but I think digital is creating it to where you're having the upper scale and the poor class. You're not really having the middle class anymore because there are so many people that's doing everything. Like, for instance, I've got a lot of artist friends who can no longer make as much money as an artist because everybody's doing it now because of social media. But at the same time, they're really good. But years ago, they could make it as songwriters and all that. But, the streaming services has kind of messed that up.
Sure. And I'm at an interesting crossroads of that, adapting to kind of that new landscape where it's again, there's just a lot of people out there that are doing things like content creation, car creation, podcasts, whatever it may be. But it's also not like erasing the, 12, 15 years of industry experience and clout that I've created for myself. And not just like, now I'm a content creator. It's like, well, I'm not. It's like, can I create content? Yes, I can. But like, I don't consider myself a content creator because that's not my platform. And I guess the difference is, and this is certainly not, my ego talking. Maybe it's my like delusional perspective talking, or, wishful thinking talking. But, I think that like from my perspective, it's like just a changing to it and adapting to it, but not like forgetting the fact that all of that can change at like the snap of a finger. So digital media, as exciting and interesting as it is, it's obviously like a hot ticket for like all the brands and companies and corporations. Now everyone wants influencer marketing. But I think at the, drop of a hat that Instagram or TikTok or any of that, it will. So it's definitely not a, it could, it's just when will it change? Because I think, in my opinion, as a frequent user of multiple social platforms, it's already extremely stale. And I think that it's only a matter of time, like it's a ticking time bomb before something big comes along or some drastic change happens. And then, the thousands of followers that you've created on this platform just like goes away. And like, there it is. The same can be said about linear television too. So.
That's true. But something that excites me too, because one of my goals down the road in the next 18 or 24 months is to create the Customized Ride magazine. And something as I've been doing the research, I think, like you said, that's getting so saturated online and people are getting tired of it a little bit. I believe you're starting to see a small tick up in print magazines starting to get life again. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
I mean, print media is definitely changed drastically over the past decade, especially just with the accessibility of everything digitally. It's hard to make people want something tangible when they can just find anything on their cell phone, which they already have in their hand at 24/7. So yeah, I mean, I think like the media landscape is going to change. I do think, and as much as I may be resistant to it, I do think that the digital landscape will continue to grow in many different capacities, and that we aren't going to get away from that instant gratification of having content delivered to people like on their phone, on the internet anytime soon. So, and TV will change and adapt to that as well, as they already are. So it's all, we're all just along for the ride, right?
But, I like what you've done too, because, although you don't consider yourself a content creator, but at the same time you are, but all you've done is created what you love and make content with it. So you've been able to balance it to where you still do everything traditional, but it applies with your social media too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like content creation sucks. Like I personally, like I thrive off people, off the environment, off that energy. So like that's the thing that's really been big for me about like being on television and hosting shows, and especially being on like live TV, live program formats, is that energy that's created from that, and being on a set, being with the production crew. Don't get me wrong, that's a ton of work in its own way, especially if you start to dip into more of like the creative production side of it. But content creation, I feel like it is like a very like lonely place. And I'm not certainly not knocking like the content creators out there by any means. It's just completely different than what I'm used to.
Most will tell you that though.
Yeah. And like, I think a lot of people really thrive in that environment, and that's totally awesome. Whereas you could look at it at the opposite end of that spectrum, where they may or may not thrive in the environment I'm describing, which is with a crew and a camera. And like, I do better with more people. Like put me on a stage in front of 40,000 people. Like I love it. Bring it on. Let's do 400,000. But I think for content creators, a lot of them do find that happiness with, a tripod, a couple light boards, and a camera rolling, and they're just
Mm.
able to kind of do what they do. And for me as like a people person, as an environmental person, I literally hate it. There's like nothing worse to me than setting up a tripod and a camera and a couple light panels and just like filming for hours. And then you have to like edit it afterwards. It's like, bleh. But
And then
apparently,
not knowing if it's going to do anything.
and then that's the other thing too, is like the secret sauce of the algorithm, which is just
all that.
I don't even know, like the worst recipe ever that really no one likes, but they sort of subscribe to. Yeah, it's like you'll put all this energy into this awesome video and you're like, oh, this edit is wicked and it's going to do so good. And then it's just a total flop. And then Instagram is the most evil of all the platforms, really, because you get your like 3-day window to hit, 3-4 days to hit that. And that's it. And then it's just like lives on your timeline. And
For
basically
some reason,
just
my stuff,
there.
I've had many go viral a month later on Instagram.
Yeah, see, I think creating virality on platforms and creating consistent content are two very different things. I think if you're searching for virality on those platforms, like you can potentially get it, but you won't retain followership and engagement. So like I personally don't strive for that. But again, I'm in a weird position because I'm floating on the career and the platform that I've already built that wasn't social media based, but now I'm trying to do content creation on social media. So I'm appealing to two completely different audiences. So it is not a science that I would say that I have mastered. But I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, and TikTok's completely different. That's an interesting beast in its own. So I kind of just do both and just put some videos out there and hope for the best.
Because it's crazy. You do a video and you're like, you get 200,000 views, and then you do another video and you get 5,000. You're like, okay, what is up with this?
Yeah. It's like, I think like my thing is, again, is just kind of consistency, but then you have stuff like, you get the platforms that start going through like Instagram, Facebook. Meta is really big about that. And they start like cleaning house of, old profiles, old pages, inactive accounts, things like that.
Right.
And then you'll like click, it is, but then you click on your page and you're like, oh, cool. I lost 1,000 followers today. That's awesome. You're like, all right, where did they go? So, it's stuff like that just gets you kind of in a weird place, but it's an interesting beast. And unfortunately you either adapt to it and play the game, or I don't want to say fade away, or you resist it and, don't really benefit from it. So I try to find a happy medium. So always still working in television, still on camera, but then pretending I'm a content creator on the weekends.
I love that. I guess you really love then when you do your meet and greets at the big car shows, like the Emerald on Coast Cruising. How is that format when you're with all those people actually in person? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, the car shows are really fun. I've been doing them for a really long time. I mean, at one point, I've calmed down with it a lot over the past few years. But at one point, I mean, I was doing like 12 or 14 car shows a year. Like I was on the circuit, like I was making it happen. And they're great. I like them because they're really low stress. So you kind of just have to show up and be you, and that's like really easy. So it's not necessarily that it's not work, because standing at a booth and basically being on for hours on end it's like very taxing. So, it's certainly not like a cakewalk by any means, but like it's fun. It's fun to meet people. I think it keeps you real. You become a real person and not just like, an image on TV. And then of course, like probably one of the best parts about it is meeting people that have been inspired by the work that I've done, which is still crazy to me. Like, I guess I'm never really been like a fangirl type of person. So it's always hard for me to kind of like, understand why someone would actually want to wait in line to meet me or get a picture with me. Like, I'm like, what's so special about me? I'm just basically a dudette doing my thing, but okay. But that kind of stuff, when you meet like, younger people, and especially when you meet other women, not that I'm not partial, well, I am.
Yeah.
But when you meet other women that are like in the industry or trying to get into the industry, or you meet that dad and their daughter or son, and they're like, my kid got into cars from watching your programs, like that stuff is the best. So that's the kind of stuff that makes it all worthwhile. It kind of, makes it like a rewarding experience, I guess you could say.
A lot of people, they see the glory in what you do, but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles it takes to get to any level of success, but especially at the level you're at. But a lot of people, they never talk about this side of it. It's almost like a taboo, but anytime I'm on with people, I always want to talk about this. I think it's the most important because it's the behind the scenes that people don't see. So tell us a little bit about that side of it.
I mean, I will say out of the gate, as a woman in a male dominated industry like automotive, and then also as a woman on television, like as a public figure, those are two like major, I don't want to say hurdles, because that makes it sound like like almost like a negative thing. Two big things, like independently, and then to kind of clash those two together. Obviously the entertainment industry and, television and I don't like using the word celebrity because I don't feel like a celebrity. I just feel like a person, but I guess that's like what some might say about me. My celebrity, it's not an easy job because, I'm a female, I'm on television, you're constantly being judged. Our incredibly unrealistic beauty standards and expectations in this, not only country, but in the industry in general, are just wildly outrageous. And as a woman, as you age, you start to like almost have a ticking time bomb as you're aging out of TV. Whereas men, car guys, and I'm certainly not trying to be sexist here, just honest, men and car guys can be like this, scruffy 60-year-old dude that had just rolled out of bed and showed up, and he's like, yeah, I'm a car dude, let's put him on TV. And it's like, I'm over here like, oh my God, I gotta get my hair done again. When's my next facial appointment? Like, I gotta buy new makeup and try this skincare regimen, and it's like all those things are taxing as a woman. And I do think definitely make it a lot more difficult to not only stay fresh within the industry, but also like maintain that image. However, I will like close that statement with, that's what I signed up for. So I never try to cry about it, because I knew damn well when I went into this industry what it was. So as much as it is challenging, as much as it is, like, as you said, a grind, and as difficult as it is sometimes to be a female, especially when I'm working very often with male hosts and male counterparts, no one cares what the male host wears, but what's the girl gonna wear? Let's go through wardrobe. What's the shirt she's got? They got a couple options. I'm like, he's in the damn black t-shirt. You don't even care. Okay. But I knew that going into it. I knew that there was going to be different expectations. I'm not justifying them, but different expectations. So you either figure it out and accept that this is the industry that we're in. We're in the Kim Kardashian world where every breath you take is judged, or don't be on TV. Like, it's a grind for sure. And, production and filming a show is a ton of work, and I've done a lot of them. It again depends on like what level you're involved with. I've been on every level with the TV show as a host or talent, where you literally just show up and they're like, all right, here's what we're doing today. You do a couple things and then you're gone. And you're like, okay, wow, that was awesome. To the complete extreme opposite of like, you are in it and you are spending your own time, your own money, your own energy for hours and weeks and months off camera, and none of that is being filmed. And what is being filmed, only a fraction of will actually make it to people's screens to understand the story. So like, it's an industry, and I think you definitely have to love it. And if you're in it for fame, good luck. Like,
Do you ever have
good luck.
something happen? Because I know this happens quite a bit with us, because of course we're out there trying to get content for the car shows and all that. Do you ever have something happen? You're like, oh, I should have been recording.
Oh yeah, I mean, just especially like my limited experience with like content creation, like in just in the past like year or so, I've really kind of amped up my social media. And honestly, to be really truthful, this is like I've been able to work on my own projects. I went through some health stuff last year, so between last year and then into this year, like I kind of designed it where I was home more so that I could work on my own projects in my own garage, which is like way better than working on other people's stuff all the time. But because of that, like, you know, I'm on this learning curve of content creation because I've not really filmed a lot of my own stuff before. You know, a few years ago, you could just actually take a picture on Instagram and post it. Remember those days? And people cared. Now you have to make like a mini highlight reel of like literally everything you do. But yeah, I mean, I've gone through plenty woes of filming where, you know, the camera dies and you're like, oh, cool. I've been working for like 30 minutes and none of that was filmed. Awesome. Great. Or, you know, you get a phone call in the middle of your phone rolling, or, you know, I've had it where I was filming on the track before and my phone overheated and on the dash and like didn't get any footage, and you're like, okay. Or like the GoPro falls off the car or the bike or something, and then you have to hopefully find it. So yeah, it's there's definitely been some learning curves along the way.
I think sometimes I have, like when we're at car shows and I'm filming cars and stuff, there'll be times to where I'm doing minutes and minutes and minutes of filming, and I'm going all around several cars and this, and then I look at, because again with the sun, I can't really see the screen. I have no idea what's going on the screen. And I trust my judgment of going around the cars and stuff. So there have been times where I look down and I'm like, oh, it's me. The screen had the selfie.
You're like,
and I'm like,
whoops.
Okay, all that is a wash.
Good times. That was great footage. I mean, it happens with television too. Like I've been on set before where, you know, an audio guy couldn't make it, so they bring in somebody like last minute. And, you know, we'll do an entire scene and then the audio guy's like, so I wasn't rolling that whole time. And like the producer is like, oh my gosh, you have to be kidding me. I mean, stuff like that doesn't happen as often, but it definitely, I think it happens in any capacity. And then you get into live TV, and that's just like a whole other like can of worms, because stuff happens all the time. And like, that's probably the most severe of like the production perspective of disasters that happen, fires that happen, and a major chunk of the time, like nobody knows about those fires, which is the ultimate goal. No one knows about those fires except production. And if you're like the person on camera, like, you know, you have to have a level head, and you got to be able to listen to two completely different things with each ear. It's a skill for sure. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect live TV world, no one ever knows about those fires, but there's almost a guarantee anytime you're live that something is gonna,
especially in motorsports.
Something. Yeah, and especially, honestly, as crazy as it is, the bigger the platform, the more, I don't want to say the more room there is for error, but the more catastrophic it can potentially be.
Yeah.
And it's things like, you know, I did X Games for years, and you know, we would be broadcast on ESPN, but then there would be like a blip in the programming, like at the top of hour, where we would transition to an ABC broadcast, which is a big jump. However, it was based off of the ABC programming. So whatever was going on ABC at the time, whether it was like, you know, golf or tennis or who knows, right? Football, whenever that finished, then we would move into our programming. So if there was any kind of like run over or overtime or game delay or anything, it was like we'd be right in the middle of an ESPN broadcast, and it's like, all right, we're going to ABC, like right now, boom. And you're like, okay, here we are. So it's like that kind of stuff too. It's like, that's a whole other that's like a whole nother level. So, but that's what makes live TV exciting. So
Yeah. Love that. You
Yeah.
know, talking about kind of teams and all that. One of the big things I've noticed out there is teams never get any recognition
They
at all.
don't.
On our show, they do. So take a few moments and just tell us the team that helps you become who you are.
My team. It's just me. I do it all myself. It's not. Actually, I mean, honestly, for a while, it really was. Like I kind of like steered my own ship for a very long time, which is good and bad. It's good because, you know, you're in, I don't want to say in complete control, and I'd be lying if I sat here. I'm sure if my team watches this, they're going to be like, you know, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a control aspect of that for me, as someone who takes a lot of pride in what I do. Letting go of that and, you know, relinquishing that control to other people is difficult at times. So for years, I did steer my own ship and kind of man the show in every capacity. But, you know, now over the years, as you know, your career progresses and as you get a little smarter, you realize it's better to have a good team in place and not try to do everything yourself. The dogs are playing gladiators behind me, so I'm just gonna hopefully I survived. Okay. Seriously, like they have to do it right here. It's two-story house. There's like 4 bedrooms, and this is where this is happening right now. Right now, no respect for space. Come on, guys, come on. But anyways, like my team, like I have a fantastic, you know, I have a fantastic agency that I work with. I have a business partner and a best friend who is also my adult babysitter. And she does a ton of work with me, and I'm forever grateful for her and the agency, a PR team that's also like absolutely amazing. And, you know, a legal team as well. That's just phenomenal. So I'm grateful for all those people, and they've all kind of been linked up with me in like the best ways possible as my career progressed. So it's all been like wildly organic, which I think is the best way ever. You know, I wasn't doing interviews for my next, you know, PR team or anything. It's just everything came naturally. And I'm really big on, you know, not only having like good people behind you, but also like working with great people in every capacity, whether it's my team or brand partnerships or collaborative efforts. I want to work with people that are awesome, you know, so that I'm really grateful for the people that I have working with me. So thank you. Love you guys. You're the best.
Speaking of teams, we have a third co-host, our 12-year-old that usually asks a couple questions. So Sandy's going to go get him.
Sure.
And while we're waiting for him to come in, what's kind of next for you that you feel's on the drawing board?
I mean, right now I've been like crazy busy with my own projects. So I have several car projects in my garage. And then I've also started my own design consultation business.
Oh, wow.
So in addition to cars, I've been working in real estate for over 20 years. It's actually what brought me to Michigan, to Detroit, was investing in houses. So real estate's been a huge part of my life for a long time. Obviously, I've done a lot of work with HGTV. So home renovations, real estate, and interior design have been a big thing for me. So kind of just growing that platform. So I have investment properties and ongoing renovation, and then also like you know, building a client base as well, and starting my business and growing my business with working with client consults and renovations with a contractor team and everything. So that's like a side project, I guess you could say. But then as far as the car projects go, just working in my garage, and then seeing what's next in the land of television for 2025. So we'll have to see.
Love that.
All right. Hi, Cristy Lee. So what's your favorite car?
Hi. Oh my gosh, what's my favorite car? That's probably like the most frequently asked question that I get. I'm not really like a favorites person, much in any capacity. So I kind of have like a slew of cars that I like. I always say like, well, what's my favorite car? Well, what's the application? So like, what's my favorite car for the track? What's my favorite car for the street? What's my favorite car to bring to a car show? I guess it just depends on like, you know, where am I going with that car?
Nah,
Because what's yours?
mine is a 1970 Corvette.
Nice,
But he
nice.
wants the Pro Street, not
Uh-huh.
just the Corvette.
It's important to note the aftermarket changes to it. So
Yeah, can't be stock Corvette. Got to be Pro.
no. See, and I'm more of a stock girl when it comes to classic cars. So that's more my scene. Not that there's anything wrong with like, you
Yeah.
know, a good old resto mod or a touring car or anything. But yeah, like a good old stock muscle car. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I'm constant. Oh, go ahead.
What I want to kick myself in the butt for is I remember when I was 18, my dad had a 70 Chevelle Super Sport, and he gave it to me. Well, he gave me a choice. He said a friend of mine wanted to buy it, and he says that I can either have it or he sells it to him, but I'll still get the money since he was giving it to me anyway. It was like $500 at the time, and I was like, I don't really want the car. And so I sold it for $500. And now when I look at the rates and prices that people are buying that car, I'm sitting there like,
oopsie. What'd you learn?
80 to 100K. I'm sitting there like, whoa, you know, that.
Yeah.
But none of us knew. I mean, I had a friend of mine that had probably 10 to 20 of those type of cars, from Chevelles to 65 Mustangs to all that back in that day. He had like 20 of them that he sold them all. And now he's like, I could be retired if I.
I mean, you know, I think a lot of us could look back and say, you know, pre-COVID things that we could have done or changed, but you know, no one really knew that, and the value would be completely different if everyone did. So it's kind of like, you know, your Back to the Future 3 blip, where if you had the almanac, everything would change. So
exactly,
there's that.
All right, and what was your first car?
Oh my God, my first car was a 1986 Volkswagen Jetta. It sucked. My dad had my dad is a BMW guy, and he had a BMW, like a 70s BMW 1600 series that he was kind of building and recreating into a BMW, a 2002, with some, like, you know, some parts from the 2002, kind of a Frankenstein car. And that was supposed to be my first car when I was 16. Of course, at the time, I had no idea like the level of coolness that was associated with that car. I was like, oh, I have to learn how to drive a manual. Like, oh my God. You know, because I was 16. But that didn't happen because my dad never finished the car and he ended up selling it too, which is highly regrettable at this point in time. But, you know, here we are. But yeah, he got me. Well, I bought an 86 Jetta as my first car. It was like a cardboard box. It was like gold, and in Florida, so like the metallic sheen was completely gone. So it was literally just this brown square, but it was a good first car. And, you know, that thing sailed over here from Germany, and it was pretty indestructible because I definitely hit a few things at 16 in it. So yeah, good car.
Yeah, this wasn't my first car, but it was close to one of my first cars. I had a 1980 Toyota Celica, and I'll never forget, a friend of mine had it sitting in his house, and he couldn't get it running, so he bought another car, and he told me, I'll sell it to you $50 if you want it. So I asked, my dad was the mechanic at that time, and he was like, I told him, he's like, well, let's go over there. I'll give him $50. So we gave him $50. We pulled it to the house. He started tinkering. Within 20 minutes, he had it running. Then over the next 3-4 years, I drove it like 300,000 miles, 200, 300,000 more miles on it. We put maybe $500 more into it in that time with basic stuff. And yet I sold it for $500. So I actually sold it for more than I got into it and still put 200,000 miles on it.
Wow. You did pretty good with that.
So you never know. I mean,
you never know.
You got anything else?
That's it.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I mean, I'm not really even sure where I see myself in 5 days. So, you know, I don't know. We'll see where the wind takes me in 5 years, but probably still doing what I love doing, and, you know, figuring out ways to reinvent myself and stay in the industry and keep doing cars and houses.
I love that. So let's look even further down the road. Let's say 20 years. And I know you can't see that, but let's just pretend you're there. You're a success on a grand scale. Whatever that looks like for you, you can kind of say, I made it. What do you hope you never forget along that journey?
What do I hope that I never forget along this journey? Who I am, staying true and real to myself is most important. It's easy to get lost in the scope of this industry, the web of this industry. So just kind of staying true to who I am and not varying from that. And, I will say that that has not necessarily always boded well for me in the industry, as, drama and things of that nature tend to, create interest in entertainment. But that's not really what has been my flame as the moth. So,
Love that.
yeah, just staying true to myself and not really varying from that. And although that may sacrifice my popularity at times, so.
So what's been your most memorable project you've done, and why is it memorable?
Oh man, you guys got all the favorite questions. My most memorable project. That's hard because I've done a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, I've done projects for veterans, wounded warriors, different, things like WyoTech and trade schools, all female builds, things like that. I've worked with A-list celebrities on building cars, not for them, but for important people in their lives, less an ultimate give back. So I don't know. It's definitely hard to pick a favorite or most memorable build. But I'm just really memorable. Yeah. I mean, and my long-term memory really sucks. So there's obviously a few that stand out more. And I'm sure there's great stuff that I would forget anyways.
Yeah.
Because I'm a short-term memory kind of girl. But I'm just really grateful that I've had such a, storied career and lots of amazing experiences over the years.
So what's a project that you have not done, any car out there that you wish you could do in the future?
Oh man.
Or you want to do in the future, I should say.
I mean, I've always I'm obviously getting more into racing now. So I've been into motorcycles and racing for a really long time, and kind of transitioning to four wheels over the past few years has been a fun experience. So just kind of more in the racing industry. So I think a personal goal for me is to do some more four-wheeled racing and do more accomplished flag to flag racing. But it just takes time. I have a really huge respect for the race industry in general, as a medium in general. So because of that respect, I don't want to say that it's held me back, but I want to do it right.
That makes sense.
So yeah, I don't want accolades for, competing, honorable mention for racing, or, winning your race when you're the only person in that class. And that's not to knock the people that do. They still, went out there and they still did it. And they still finished. And there's a lot to be said with that. But for me, I want to go out there and be competitive and do it right and do it the best way I can. So yeah, definitely doing more in racing, more accomplishments in the race community, both on two wheels and four wheels. So
has the competitive spirit always been in you?
Yeah, I'm definitely a really competitive person. I love racing. I have a huge respect for it in many different capacities. I suck as a motorcycle racer. I'm totally fine admitting that. I wish I was a lot better. I've been doing it for a really long time, and I'm not that good at it. And I'm just okay with going around the track at a medium pace. I'm fine with that. So I'm hoping that I can kind of uncover some inner ultra competitive nature that's been laying dormant on two wheels in the four wheel side of racing. Just because motorcycle racing's pretty wild, and crashing really sucks. So there's a big part of me that loves it, but I also love coming home in one piece at the track. So I'm hoping you have a little more a greater margin for error on four wheels.
That's true.
So Yeah. So, that ability to push and, increase the extreme or increase the extremes and push
Yeah.
that level is a little, I guess, easier to sway myself to in the four wheels. So yeah. I'm
Love-
okay with not being I'm not going to be the next Valentino Rossi anytime soon. Which is good because he's really hard to understand, but also awesome. So yeah.
Love that. So
Motorcycle
as we-
racing futures for me, maybe cars.
So as we close out here, I always like to end with the same question. What advice would you give that person that wants to do what you do?
Oh, that's hard because there's only one of me. So, you're trying to step into some shoes that are probably never going to fit. I would say for anybody in any industry, in any capacity, stick to you and having, not only like self-confidence, but also that drive, and that strong work ethic. That's what's been the biggest success for me, is staying true to who I am, managing my expectations, and being like a hard worker and resilient. That's been really big for me. As far as like the television industry, don't do it, run for the hills. No, I'm just kidding. As far as like being like an on-camera TV personality, oh man, good luck. Like, it's pretty savage. I don't know. Like I've had a lot of different roles in entertainment. I mean, I started out in radio as a DJ and on-air DJ reporting traffic and weather and sports. 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So like I've worked my way up in that, not even 15 years ago, like God, 2008.
Yeah.
My math is off, whatever. So yeah, I mean, my advice to anybody trying to like break into the automotive television industry is just, make connections, network, meet the right people, go to the right events, but also manage expectations. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. I just mean like, it doesn't happen overnight.
I love that. Great answer. We really enjoyed having you on here. So any final words as we close?
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming on.
We appreciate your time today.
You're always welcome to come back anytime.
Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. You have a great day.
Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Okay. The recording